After spinning up an impressive win, Centrifuge's Lucas Vogelsang gives us a quick lesson on 17th century candle auctions. Today we are joined by Lucas Vogelsang, who is co-founder and CEO from Centrifuge, whose Kusama project Altair just won the ninth Kusama Parachain slot. Congratulations and welcome to the show, Lucas.
Hey Brian, thanks for having me. Happy to be on.
Wow, so this one was a kind of a crazy one. We got to learn a lot about how crowd loans and auctions actually work in detail. But before we get into that, how is the team feeling today? How is everybody?
Um, I think super excited and just very happy to see just the reactions by everybody, the community. It's been like probably top 10 craziest times in my career of working in tech. And so sort of seeing just how it comes out and like waking up this morning basically to like this outcome was really cool. So yeah, I think we're overall super happy, and now looking at okay, like what's happening next? Like, what do we do with Altair? Let's launch it. Figure out what are the next steps, and I'm really already my mind's already thinking about sort of what we can do with it now.
So, we kind of have seen a little bit of chaos here in the past, and we've also seen some competitive auctions between several teams, but it wasn't that crazy. But this one, actually, there were kind of three of you guys all close up together. We had Kintsugi, we had Parallel with Finance with Heiko, and you guys. But you ended up victorious on this one. Maybe you could just explain a little bit about what happened for the listeners.
Yeah, so the way these auctions work is they're designed so that it's also that you're as a smart contract or as code, you can compete in these auctions, which is very different than it because you don't actually have a private strategy. So this is not something that's being used today, but it means actually that it's not just an auction to the highest bidder with like an end date, like you would bid for something on eBay. They use what is called a candle auction, and that means that actually you don't know when the auction ends until way past the end. And this sort of should incentivize people to bid as fast as possible, as much as they can, as opposed to like finding some strategies to come in at the last minute with a higher bid. Because like if you write a contract or like some on-chain logic to do this, right, everyone would see that you're planning to put in a last-minute bid, and so this doesn't really work that well. And so for that reason, actually, the the way this works is there's sort of this period in which the auction can end at any moment, and you don't know actually until the period is over, at which point the end time is picked with a verifiable random function. This is a mathematical function that will pick a time that is randomly chosen in that whole period, and then sort of the winner is basically whoever was leading at that time. And so that means basically, your strategy has to be that for this entire period, you are in the winning position as long as possible. But sort of if you're the winner 100% of the time, you're going to get it. If you're the winner 10% of the time, then your chances of winning it are 10%. And actually, for Altair, sort of the way it looked, and sort of I'm actually not remembering which site, but there's actually a pretty good graph that sort of shows the different crowd loans increasingly going from first spot to second spot and so on. And what happened here was Altair was in the lead until about 35% of the time period has elapsed, at which point Parallel had a pretty big whale. I think actually it was their own Kusama account that put in 57,000 KSM. At which point we lost the lead. Then we were sort of catching up with them again, but actually didn't manage to until the end of the auction. And so the end of the auction was this morning at I think around 10:30 CET. So what is that, 9:30 UTC? And so at that point, this very verifiable random function was chosen, and it ended up being actually the time that the auction ended was in the first third of the auction. So that's why we won.
Wow, that must have been surprising. I mean, how did you feel about your odds?
Oh, I mean, the odds are not good, right? And so we were ready to go for slot number 10, and so sort of like the entire time, towards the end of it, we were preparing for auction number 10, slot number 11, because yeah, of course, like once sort of this slot is over, then you're competing for the next one. So it was definitely a great surprise, and um, very happy that it happened that way.
Well, we're always happy to be able to have the teams come on when they win the auctions. I believe there was some kind of all hands meeting that had to be worked around this morning to get you scheduled for this. What were you planning to do there?
So actually, we this was purely coincidence, but we sort of do these longer all hands meeting with sort of the core team, and one of them was scheduled for actually starting in about 15 minutes. So what the goal of these meetings for us internally is to sort of look at our strategy, what we're doing, what is coming next, and evaluate. Of course, this one will be a lot about sort of how the auction went and what's coming next for Altair. Um, and I'm very excited about that. Yeah.
Well, now that you were caught off guard and you have to rush to prepare, are you going to have any time to have any kind of celebration for this, or is it just going to be
We
back to
will.
work and getting this thing out?
I, we will
Great.
celebrate a bit across the globe. Um, but so maybe the real celebration will happen when we can all get together at some, maybe in an event anytime soon. But yeah, we will definitely celebrate a bit.
So over the next few weeks, what can people expect? I mean, what do you guys have any idea of a target date for getting transferability out or distribution of the tokens? Like, are you guys just still kind of sorting that out now?
So I want to say we have it. We have most of the details narrowed down, and we'll start communicating a bit of sort of all of these different milestones. Right? It is the process of actually now launching Altair into full functionality, meaning transferability, governance, collator set, actual on-chain functionality. So we do that in stages in a similar way that actually Polkadot and Kusama launched, right? We're sort of continuously enabling more functionality, testing along the way. The first one of the most important priorities is to first of all distribute rewards and sort of give people their tokens, so that we can then start building using governance, on-chain governance, to sort of start controlling the network together with the community. And that's really what I'm very excited about, is sort of achieving that milestone. So the first step will be just getting the chain live with sudo, so basically controlled with like a central key. At that point, doing a bunch of testing, making sure we're ready for the next step, which will be token distributions um, and then sort of council and democracy. At which point then we will go to enabling runtime functionality that's custom to Altair, and then finally transferability. Sort of once we really know it works as expected, then the community can actually sort of vote to now set the network free. And I don't have dates on that yet. I know I'd love to be able to say something, but this in the coming days we will start publishing this, and you'll find out on all of our channels.
Beautiful. Yeah. So I think everybody's always waiting with bated breath for the tokens to be transferable to see how things are going. And as we mentioned in the Kilt podcast, I think projects like Moon River and stuff have just kicked this up into like the stratosphere as far as how excited people are about all of these parachains. When we spoke with Cassidy last time on the podcast, she mentioned creating, this having a possibility, there being the possibility that you guys could actually create liquidity around CryptoPunks. What kind of liquidity options are you personally excited about, and what can we look forward to in the future, do you think?
So we like Centrifuge and therefore also Altair, our Canary network, is focused on bringing liquidity to real world assets and sort of any kind of like non fungible illiquid assets. And I think, yeah, Cassidy mentioned the CryptoPunks. I think what we want to use Altair for as a way to experiment with and build out this technology first before sort of maturing it, graduating it into centrifuge and doing it at a bigger scale, maybe like more conservatively. So what Altair is going to be, it's going to be this like testnet is the wrong word, but it is going to be definitely the network that will have this functionality first, and where actually one of the first features we will see is going to be NFTs and ways to mint those, trade those, transfer them, and then sort of looking at how do we actually now bring liquidity to those is obviously then the next step. And that can be then for both CryptoPunks, but also sort of the trillions in value that is locked up in real world assets, like the house you live in or the house I live in, the revenue that businesses have, or the commodities like I don't know, corn or farmland, or like sort of all these other asset classes. And I think both is super exciting. I love the creativity and the community, especially actually also in the Kusama ecosystem around NFTs and gaming assets, CryptoPunks and the likes. But also, of course, something that is very dear to me is broadening the user base of crypto and finding out how we can actually impact the life of real people all around the globe. And I think going into real world assets, financing someone's home, financing like giving credit to small businesses, that's like the place where we're going to start to see like the doing something that can be done, that can be used by the billions of people we have in the world. And that's I think sort of the long North Star that drives me.
Yeah, I think it's certainly a very lofty challenge to go after tying real world assets into the digital world. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious and very straightforward about how to just keep things digital. I mean, the marketplaces that have succeeded so far have been really just around digital goods and services, and not necessarily real world. So, if you guys are able to prove that model works and show how it can be successful, it will be a huge accomplishment. I have one final question for you that we ask all of our participants. And since you weren't on the podcast last when Cassidy was here, we got a chance to ask her this question. But the slogan for Kusama is "Expect Chaos," and this might be one of the most appropriate times to ask this question. But what kind of chaos score would you give the overall process? 1 to 10, 10 being extremely chaotic, 1 being perfectly seamless.
Wow, what should I say? What should I say? Well, I can tell you, um, doing these auctions with almost no insight on when they're going to happen, how they're going to turn out, and what's going to happen in the meantime, and then sort of rallying the community around contributing to these crowd loans, is definitely very, very high up on the level of chaos that I'm used to. And I've been working in startups and building Centrifuge for a long time, so I'm used to a fair amount of uncertainty and chaos. But nevertheless, I think I would say this still, even for me, gets a relatively high chaos score. So I don't know. I'd probably say like an 8 or an 8.5. Definitely that I would give this process.
Well, it's good that you still gave yourself a little bit of a ceiling there in case it got more chaotic. So
Oh
we'll
yeah, I
take an
mean,
8 or an
never
8.5.
always expect worse, or expect chaos, right? More chaos.
Exactly. Well, I really appreciate having you on the show. Where can everyone kind of go to follow Altair and Centrifuge and everything that's going on with you guys?
Yeah, so you can go. We have Twitter account, Altair underscore network. That's a very good place to get started. Follow us. Our website is centrifuge.io. It has a lot of information on both sort of centrifugal role, but also Altair the network. We join us on Telegram. There's gov.centrifuge.io, which is sort of more of a governance forum. I think start with the Twitter website, Telegram, and take it from there.
Great. Well, I'm sure they're extremely ecstatic to find out that you guys have won as the news trickles through. And we're really happy to have you on here so we could talk a little bit about where you guys are going next. So good luck, and thanks for stopping by. Congratulations to Centrifuge and their Kusama project Altair. Make sure you like, subscribe, and review us on your favorite podcast platform, and we will be sure to bring you along as we get a backstage pass to the world of Parachain auctions. Until next time, I'm Brian Hoffman, and this has been the Parachain Auctions podcast. Well, as Snoop Dogg says, there's no party quite like a remote party. So, or maybe he didn't say that. This content is not financial or investment advice. All interviews and discussions are opinions only. Kraken does not endorse the accuracy of this content. None of the following information should be construed as a recommendation to support any specific Parachain project or to participate in Parachain auctions in general. See our terms of service for more information.